Just like the seminar from a few weeks ago, this is the content that we're going to go through. I have added a few other things which I will explain shortly. So basically, part one of the seminar is going to be the product information. Part two, installation requirements. Just to note, this is the minimum requirements for the SNA 5000. Part three, setting up the battery with a few tips and tricks. Part four, programming the Luxpower inverter from the monitor account. And then I'll also include a video. Hopefully the audio is okay for you guys. The video will basically show you how to program a very common working mode, which is programming your system as a UPS. So that is a guide on how to do that through the Luxpower, which we will cover later on. Part five, parallel connection guide, and then part six will be introduction to the monitor account. But I'm thinking maybe when we go through the product introduction, I'll then just go through the introduction to the monitor account. Part seven, settings description and common working modes that we get asked frequently to program for clients. And then, as mentioned during my seminar from a few weeks ago, we're going to dive into a few more detailed things going into the Luxpower inverter so you guys can see what it looks like with a little bit of information on the circuit boards. So I hope you guys do enjoy that. All right. So let's just quickly talk about the basic key features of our SNA. So this unit is an intelligent off-grid system with partial hybrid modes. I do need to change that. PV and AC power can supply loads simultaneously. It has dual MPPTs with a wide input voltage range. I'll show you guys a comparison spreadsheet below this so that you can see. It's compatible with most leading lithium-ion batteries on the market, which is quite nice. It has a free monitoring via app and remote upgrades. You guys can also access this feature using your browser. It supports single and unbalanced three-phase, which is something that a lot of people don't know. I know on your other hybrid inverters, like your Deas, they can support unbalanced phases. Our SNA 5000 can also support that in three-phase systems. You can parallel up to 10 units, and it has an independent generator interface, which we will, I'll show you guys that shortly. So just scrolling down, going back onto the Heine battery, I want to emphasize again that the Heine battery, or the Heine ESS, is the Luxpower preferred battery. It's actually the battery brand that Luxpower has partnered with. So I'm just going to talk you guys through the process of upgrading this battery. So I'm skipping a bit of the introduction now. Some of you guys already know the Luxpower quite well. So this is a feature that I just want to remind you guys. So with the Heine battery, when connected to the SNA 5000, you will have the ability to monitor the battery, just like similar to the functions that you would get from, let's say, the Shotter battery. When you access that, you can basically see the battery data. Now that information will be listed on the monitor account, so the home screen of your Luxpower monitor account. I'll show you exactly where that will be displayed. And then if you guys are using a hybrid system, the Luxpower hybrid system, just make sure that your LXP10 or 12 kilowatt is at least on the 0909 onwards firmware code. For the Eco SNA 5000, it must be at least on the 127A7F or 247A7F. And just to make a note on this, this is exactly the same firmware type. The 12 and 24 just represent the manufacturer model or the manufactured date of when that system was manufactured. So basically, how you upgrade the Heine batteries, you would go to your Luxpower monitor account. You'll click on the maintain section. Let me just zoom in a bit. Over here, click on the maintain section, will be the first thing. Then you'll click on remote update. The third thing would be choose file. Now this file over here, what you will need to do is you will need to join the Heine technical support group. If you guys are not on that group, you can send me an email. I left my email address in the chat, and I'll send you a link to that group. The support is absolutely phenomenal. I've worked with the head engineer of that brand, and they are extremely supportive and very helpful too. So once you get that file, you'll click on choose file, upload the file over here. The next step would be, to click on upload BMS file. Just wait a few seconds, and then you will see the file pop up on the top right section over here. Once you have that file loaded on here, what you're going to do is you're going to select the inverter that is paired with that Heine battery. So you will then search that inverter serial number over here. And once you have that, the next step would be to just click on update. So that will start the update on the Heine battery. A few notes is that you can update the Heine battery while it's still in use, while it's still charging and discharging, which is quite nice. Another thing is that if you have multiple Heine batteries in parallel, what will happen by default is when you click on the update, it will update the master battery. And from the master battery, it will then transfer that firmware code to the other modules, which is really nice and really helpful. So this is one of the features that Luxpower and Heine have decided to offer. So yeah, so you guys can just have a look at that. If you have any questions on this, just pop me an email and then I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Let me just have a look at this. Yeah, so update usually takes between 1 to 5 minutes. All right, so I found this little spreadsheet in my archives that was missing for a very long time. But I just wanted to show you guys this because before Luxpower came into the market, you know, your Growatt ES, which is a 5 kilowatt system, and then your Expert King, two very popular systems in the market. So here's just a brief comparison of the two. This data over here for the parallel section of the Luxpower is not correct, so I'm not too sure who created this, but everything else seems to be good. So obviously, with your Luxpower, you can upgrade it to a bigger system, 10 units in total. Standard Ethernet cable, no extra device needed for the parallel connection. So it's basically parallel ready. On your panel side, the Luxpower can support more panels, provide more power. So 6.4 kilowatts of power in total, which is far more than your Growatt on your Expert King over there. Our system also offers a dual MPPT, which is a high input range. The current as well on the PV side is also much higher. It's 13 amps an hour, higher voltage, which is more reliable, wide range of PV input, and higher efficiency. The rest of here, I will send you guys this document. You can just send me an email and then I'll send that through to you guys. And then this is just additional information that I've listed on here for you guys to read through. So I've primarily done this because I know there's a lot of information out there that is not accurate. There are a few companies that are providing the wrong data. So I just wanted to list this over here for you guys. All right, scrolling down, what we're going to do is now, so key features done, the products, things are done. Before we go into the management side, so basically the account management, station management, dongle management, and server management, we're going to dive into a little bit of the technical side of the Luxpower SNA. This is what I referred to during my previous seminar. So if you guys just give me a second, I'm going to open up that document. All right, let's jump back into it. Okay. All right. Okay, so what I want to show you guys first is, where's that other doc? Oh, here it is. I think it may have just jumped it up a bit. Just 1 second, guys. All right, I'm not too sure why it didn't save, but what I wanted to show you is what the system basically looks like. Oh, that's the wrong one. All right, okay, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so in your Luxpower unit, when you open it up, you're going to see three main components, right? So you have your main board, which is located at the bottom. You got your control, you got your MPPT board, and then you got your control board and interface board. So these images are taken of an old unit. One of the first versions of the SNA 5000, but that's okay. The new versions look fairly similar, just improved components. So I'm going to cover these over here. Just wanted you guys to have a look at this. So let me just zoom in a bit so you guys can see the design. So this is our main board over here. So we've got our DC and DC AC side on the main board. You've got your MPPT, which is over here, and then your control board, and then interface. All right. So jumping back to the other document, I've just created a few notes here for you guys, just like a few facts on the circuit board. So on the control board has both control MCU and communication MCU. MCU stands for microcontroller unit. The controller MCU is the current and voltage sampling, which also assists with output of the DC-DC and DC-AC circuit located on the main board. I believe there should be that should be located over here so you guys can see. So you got your sampling and control over here, and then your communication and display. So these are your chips over here that I just referred to now. The communication MCU is related with external communication with battery, Wi-Fi dongle, and LCD display. Your MPPT, which stands for maximum power point tracker, for those of you that don't know. So this caters for your PV input circuit. There are two independent MPPT trackers, or MPP trackers, with common PV. Both PV and AC switch power supply, SPS, are integrated in this board. It's the primary power supply for all control drivers, LCD display, Wi-Fi dongle, and MCUs, and all kinds of IC throughout this inverter. The main board is primarily the main power circuit for the DC-DC and DC-AC. Both DC-DC and DC-AC have bidirectional controllers. There's also an SPS integrated on this board. The interface, which is the connection board, includes the battery communication port, the dry contact port with generator connection, the parallel communication port with dip switches, and the Wi-Fi connection port for your Wi-Fi dongle. So I'm just going to show you guys those quickly. So this is the interface board over here, or the connection board. So you got your ports over here. So the two top ones over here are for the battery, but in all cases, you will most likely be using the left one, which is the CAN port. The two bottom ports at the bottom here are for the parallel connection. And then over here, you will see on your older versions, your dip switch over here is red. The newer ones are blue. So that's primarily used for your parallel systems. And then this is your HDMI port over here for the Wi-Fi dongle that connects through over here. And then this little green block on the right is your dry contact port for your generators. So this is what you'll connect those two. Right. So that's just a little bit diving into the Luxpower unit. I am sorry that my images that I prepared are not on this document, but for those of you that do send me an email, when I email this document to you, I'll make sure that those images are in here with more detail. All right. Okay, let's go into the account management section quickly. I'd just like to start out with this. So for some of you that know, there are 4 types of Luxpower dongles. The original one, which you guys get with in your packaging right now, is this Wi-Fi dongle over here. So this only supports TCP, but soon, I believe Luxpower is going to make, or Andy, that represents Luxpower, is going to be making an announcement on social media soon regarding the new Wi-Fi dongle, which is the short one over here. Both of them have the exact same function. The only difference is that on the new one, it's a little bit smaller, and it also supports Bluetooth connectivity. So in the future, the models of the SNA 5000 models that you guys purchase, it will no longer have this old one, but it will include this newer design over here. For those of you that are interested in these other 2 over here, we do have a few in South Africa available for testing. So it's basically the 4G/2G dongles where you insert a SIM card in here with preloaded data, and then you've got your WLAN dongles over here. So if you guys are interested in something like that and you are perhaps based around Johannesburg, or you don't mind using the services of a courier company, you can pop me an email and we can get some of these sent down to you guys. If you do want something like this, you're going to have to send through your previous Wi-Fi dongle, which is this one over here. So it's basically going to be a swap, and then you guys can test these out. All right. Going down to some of the sections, the section that I would like to focus on. The rest of the content in here, you guys will have access to this document so you can read it. But these are for the areas that I like to cover that I believe are the most important on this document. So we're going to discuss the accounts and how exactly that works. So from point of sale, when you buy the unit as a new customer, you're going to need a customer code through a customer code and a customer monitor account. Whether you're a wholesaler, distributor, installer, or end user, there's a process that needs to be followed. So I'm basically going to explain it. I think I'll use a company like who can I refer here? Let's say AC/DC, right? AC/DC is one of our biggest distributors. So we created a distributor account for them, which will be one of these profiles of a year. And what they do for their customers, whether they're supplying another company that resells the product, they will then create another distributor account for them. This will generate a customer code for that company as well and link these two accounts up together. Now, either that company or AC/DC, they will then sell to a company that does installation. Now, that company needs an installation monitor account with their own unique customer code, which will be used for registration of the end user. That account needs to be created by the supplier, who in this case is AC/DC. Now, the reason why I just like to go over this is because we've dealt with a few situations where sometimes the installers aren't aware of this process. And if my technical team in South Africa creates these accounts for you, creates these customer codes for you, then if you need assistance, technical assistance from your suppliers, they won't be able to remotely access your system because we created the profile for you. If they create it for you, it automatically links everything together. All right. So just please take that into account. So that's basically how you get your customer code. You follow up with your supplier, they need to create it for you. If they don't offer this support or this service at all, my technical team's number is on our Luxpower Tech website, including mine. You can pop us a message. Sometimes we aren't able to answer our phones all the time. So just pop us a message and we will get back to you as soon as possible. All right. Going down through to the end user or the registration process. Now, there are two ways to basically register the client. You got this method over here. If you guys have a look on our Luxpower Tech our Luxpower Tech YouTube page, Andy just released a new video explaining this and how to get that sorted out. So one of the advantages of registering an end user through this method, through the Luxpower View app, is that this process will automatically link and create everything for you. What I mean is, if you do it let's say the old manual way on the monitor account. So let me actually just show you that quickly. Let's go over here. All right, here's the little thing I created. Okay, so if we have to now create an end user over here, so the process of doing that is for that station or that system, you need to create a station. You need to link the dongles of that inverter or inverters to the station. And once that's created, you need to then link that station to the user account that you created for the end user. So if you do it this way, which is one of the ways that I prefer to do it, is you would basically click on user, click on add end user, and then you would fill in the details there of the customer, click on add, and once the profile is created, you will see it located at the bottom. 1 second, guys. That was not supposed to happen. All right, so once account is generated, the user account information will be located at the bottom of here, and the role would state end user. So once that's done, you would then click on station, create the station for the client over here, click on add your daylight saving time, you'll leave that, click on no, and then once that's created, you'll go back to station, and then on the action button over here, you will click on the management action button, and then you'll just click on add dongle. You type the dongle serial number in, and you add it. Now, once those two are done, or actually all three of these are finished, you will make your way back to the user account, and then you'll click on user management. Now, for an end user, or if the role is an end user, you will have more options listed over here. One of the options is station config. If you click on station config, what will happen is a little box will pop up over here, and it will display all the stations that have been created that are not linked to any profile. You will basically select the station that you created, and then it links everything together, and then you can forward the password and username to your client. So that method sounds quite long. So if we have to go back to this method over here, when you fill it in, you will note, let me just see if this is the old one. No, this one's good. Okay. So when you fill this in, it will automatically create and link that whole process that I just explained now. So what you will do is on your cluster side, you'll select the correct cluster. So either Asia or Africa, depending on which will work best for you. In my experience, if you with a service provider like Telkom, it will be best for you to have the client registered in Africa, as they will have a more reliable connection to that server. So once that's finished, just fill in the information over here, create the plant name over here, leave that unticked, and then your content will be, you will select Africa, region and country, South Africa for those, your time zone, GMT +2, and then for the customer code area over here, as the installer, you will then fill in your customer code that is generated for you in this block over here, and then just fill in the dongle serial number and pin. If you have a system where there's more than one Luxpower inverter, so it's a parallel connection, just put in the master dongle serial number and pin, create, and then click on register. Once this is finished, go back to your monitor account. Let me just click on mine quickly. Go back to your monitor account over here, go to stations, locate the station for that plant, and then just click on the action button over here and add the other dongles for the other inverters. So that will just get those sorted out. Okay, so that's the account management area. If you guys have any questions on that, just send it through on the chat. I'll see if I can answer it before the end of the seminar. But yeah, so that's that. Going down to, I believe, is station management. Let me just see if I can find that. That should be over here. For station management, so the only thing that you guys really need to know, and this is probably based on a lot of common questions that we get, is number one, how do I delink a station? Number two, how do I transfer a station to my account? So if you're basically taking over a system, you would most likely want to have that transferred underneath your profile. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you guys quickly one of the two. Okay, just 1 second, guys. All right. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go back to your monitor account section over here. Please do note that the information on this will be blurred out. We realized we made a mistake on our previous seminar, so we're going to refilm that video and upload it and blur the information out, so you guys don't have to worry about any of this. But how to delink a dongle, what you will basically do is you'll log into your monitor account, click on dongles, and then underneath the action section over here, so let's say, there's different types of that. There you go. It's a BA dongle. So there you go. So let's say this is one of the dongles that you want to delink. So you'll just click on management and then click on remove, and that will delink the dongle. Once it's removed, you will notice the station name will display as SSID with a few other text over there. So that will sort that process out. I know previously, just going back to the account creation of a year, I know previously that there was a bit of a delay when clicking on the registration button. So after clicking it, it seems like it's not going through. So users usually click on it multiple times, and what will happen is the registration will actually go through, but because you clicked on it multiple times, it only shows you the last notification. That last notification is going to be either dongle or station already exists or user account already exists. That's because you have created it. Now, this delay can also cause a delay from your side on your monitor account. When you log into your monitor account, that information is not there. So when you guys do the registration and you click on the register button, just please be a little bit patient and just wait for it to load. Otherwise, what's going to happen is if you can't remove everything yourself, you're going to have to send a query through to our support line, and you guys are going to have to wait until either one of our support members or your supplier can assist you with that process. Okay. Now, the process of doing transferring stations underneath another account, only our support team in South Africa and Luxpower Tech in China have access to that feature. What we would need from your side is basically that end user's user details. So we need the username of that system that you want transferred underneath your profile, as well as your customer code. Once you present us with both of those things, within a matter of minutes, we can get that transferred, and then you can carry on with supporting that client and getting things up and running. Okay. Jumping down to, let's just have a look. The refresh of that. Yes. Oh, yes. This is another important thing. There are quite a few queries where clients just want to know why their system is displaying as offline, although it is online and they can read it. That might just be a bit of a network issue. So all you have to do is, when you go to the dongle tab, just click on refresh inverter. Then that will just basically refresh everything, and usually 9 times out of 10 that corrects the offline status over there. Another thing with the dongle management, it's important to get the dongle set up, because without the dongle being programmed, you won't be able to record any data from that Luxpower unit. So if you do need technical assistance from myself or one of my technical support members, we need to have a look at the technical data that is recorded from your system to see what the fault might be and how we can solve it. Another thing is that if your dongle is not set up, you won't be able to do remote firmware updates on the inverter, as well as if you have a Heiner battery connected to that, you won't be able to update the Heiner battery remotely through the SNA 5000. So it's quite vital that you guys get the dongle set up. Another thing with regards to saving data, Luxpower has upgraded the control board on the system. So now there's a feature where sorry, not a feature, but the memory on the system and on the server saves up to 365 days, so a whole year's worth of data, which is extremely handy from our side. Previously, I believe it was 90 days. So it was a little bit difficult from our side to do technical support for older systems due to that. So that's really nice. You guys can just make a note of that. Going down to the servers, what I'm going to do is, for the server management, I'm rather going to explain that as I go through the monitor account so that you guys understand it in a little bit more detail. So before we go through to the installation requirements, let's just have a brief introduction to the monitor account and how exactly that works. Let me just quickly switch accounts. All right, guys. So when you are presented with your login details for your monitor account and you log in for the first time, this is what it's going to look like. It's nice and blank, nice and fresh. So what you have over here is basically your default page. When you log into your monitor account, this information shows over here. I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to show you guys a working system. I think that'll be a little bit better for a practical example. Just give me one moment. Should be a system right over here. Perfect. Offline. Perfect. Okay, that's not working. Let's go over here. Just select a device. Okay, let's use this one. All right, here you go, guys. Okay, so this is the monitor account. So when you log on, you will get your basic data on the top section over here. So there's four tabs. So you have a solar yield, battery discharge and charge. You got your feed-in energy and import energy, and then you got your consumption tab over here. So on your solar yield tab on the top section over here, you have your total yield for the day, your total harvest, and then from point of commissioning the system to date, that information, so your total harvest energy from your panels will be listed on the bottom of here. So you can see this is quite a nice system, or quite an old one. It's been running for quite some time now, harvested quite a bit. If you click on this tab, you can cycle through different graphs over here to see the different data. And that will be the same throughout all the tabs except the consumption. So on the battery charge, you can see the information for charge and discharge over here, and then the feed-in and import section. On the system information tab, before I cover that, if you have a Heine battery, I believe what will happen is the Heine information should be displayed over here on the bottom. Oopsie, displayed here on the bottom. So you can basically get the basic information like total cycles, or the charge and discharge, and the amperage, and things like that. All of the necessary things that are quite useful. Displayed over here, you will have your PV information list displayed over here. So you, because this is a dual MPPT system, there are two PV input slots, so PV1 and PV2. So this will show you your current wattage that's being used, and then your voltage over here. Just a quick note that let's say your system is spec'd to generate more wattage than what is displayed over here. That's probably due to your consumption. So if your system is spec'd to generating, let's say 3000 watts, and you only need, let's say, about 1.6 that's displayed over here, it's only going to show you 1.6 kilowatts of power that is being used. So this is the current usable energy coming from your PV. On your battery side of here on the bottom left, if your battery is in a charge state, you will have arrows directing to the going directly to the battery over here. If it's on the discharge, opposite direction. All right. So you can see your battery percentage listed over here, as well as the voltage of the battery, which is quite nice. Now, if you have a lead acid battery, just please note that how the percentage is basically calculated is through the data that you import under the lead acid settings, as well as the battery capacity. So that's like depending on the size of the module, whether it's a 1C, 2C, or 3C, etc., etc. So that information is going to be listed over here, but just keep in mind that it's not entirely accurate. So it's a rough calculation of what the percentage is. So just focus on the voltage rather. On your right-hand side of here, you've got your grid information, and underneath that, you got your consumption. And then you have this new function that Luxpower has just recently added, which is the start quick charge. What that basically is when you click on it, it will force charge the battery for 1 hour, but this function can only work if you have AC power supply. So it will use AC power supply to force charge the battery for 1 hour. So that's that feature over there. What's quite nice about it is that if you don't want to, let's say, explain to the end user how to change the charge settings, or you perhaps don't have time at that point to change the settings, just to quickly charge the batteries a bit so that it will last during load shedding. Maybe there's a sudden change from stage 4 to stage 6. Then you can just guide the customer and tell them just click on the start quick charge, and that will charge your batteries for 1 hour. After 1 hour, it will stop and go back to its to the previous settings that you programmed. Scrolling down, you will have your input and output power. This is basically just a table graph over here where you can have a look at the data, what based on time and date. So you can click on the calendar over here and you can change the date. So you can cycle and filter the different information on the top right hand section over here. So if you click on the items, all of the display goes away. So let's say we want to look at just the battery data. You'll just select the battery information, the battery icon over there, and they just cycle through the data over here. All right. Scrolling down, the function is exactly the same, just in a different table format. Okay. Going through to your data section, one of my favorite areas, you will see you got five options on the left over here. So on the chart section, which is what we're on now, this is quite nice because this is a nice summary of how the system is working. So you have 4 different, let's call it, okay, sorry, I see there's more now. They've added more functions over here, which is quite nice. This might be due to my account. Usually you will have 4 options. So you will have your PV side, battery, AC side, and your, where is it? It should be your EPS. I'll just need to follow up with Luxpower regarding that. It might be something that they've changed, like an update. But on your PV side, let's say we're looking at this, you can have a look at the voltage or the wattages based on the PV input slot that you've selected. And then for your battery side, you can look at the battery percentage, voltage, the charge power and discharge power as well. And then your AC side, you can just cycle through over that. So if you do have load shedding, it is very noticeable. You will see a dip in power for that period of time, and it dips back up over there. So you've got your energy tab 2, where you can just cycle through the information. I'm not going to go over too much detail over this. The data history is one of the areas that I spend a lot of time. So this is how we diagnose some situations or confirm a fault on the system, or if a fault or if a unit is faulty. The information will be listed over here under the numbers, so you guys can have a look at this, and you can just see if you can try and understand what's going on over here. I will go through some of it. So if you have a look over here, you've got your 2 strings, your 2 MPPT areas here, which are independent, by the way. So these are your voltage readings from both PV sides. You can also see the battery voltage at that time of at that point of time. The battery SOC also listed over here, and then the power that, or let's the usable power that's coming from your PV. So you can see how much power you're using from, or you're using from your panels at that point of time. And then you've got your general voltage from AC side listed over here, the frequency you can see down here, and then power to grid listed over here. So this is some grid information from your power, and etc, etc, etc. So you guys can just have a look at this over here. All right. Local data, I'm going to skip that. Under event history, if you have a system that is displaying a fault or a warning, you can just log onto this area over here, and it will show you the fault code or the warning. Just give it a second to load. Okay, so you've got your station name over here, serial number, and then you got your information listed over here, whether it's a fault. If it's a warning, it'll be displayed as a notice. So this will show you the information over here. And then usually, since the product has been out on the market for quite some time, I believe there is a document that is floating around the market where it explains the fault or warning and how to possibly troubleshoot and get that addressed. Otherwise, if you guys have a situation where you don't know how to solve, just pop a message on our WhatsApp technical groups. If you don't have access to those, just let me know on via email. You guys can send me an email. I'll send you all the information that you need, the PDFs, the links, etc., just to get that sorted out. Under configuration, I'm going to, just to save editing for Luxpower Tech, I'm just going to switch accounts quickly. Under configuration over here, as I showed previously, you got your station, dongle, device, and user tabs on the left-hand side of here, which are quite nice. Under your user account, depending on the level account that you've generated, you can either create a assistant account, another distributor account, or an installer account. If you have an installer account, you can create assistant installer accounts, which is quite nice if you don't want to give access to the primary account to a representative of your team. And then you can create end user information, a end user account over there. Under the overview tab, you most likely going to use this to either, depending, like if you're a very big business and you've done, let's say 100 projects, right? And you're struggling to locate something, you would most likely jump onto the overview tab to try and get that information. But if you have a look at the ribbons over here, you can see the general information under the station over here. So what will usually happen is you will search the station, that information will pop over here. Under the status, if it's online, it will say, I believe it'll say normal in green. If it's offline, it'll obviously state that. And if there's a fault or a warning, it'll also display that underneath of here. So this is quite nice. If you want to monitor all your systems just to see if all your client systems are okay, if they're normal, if they're online, you can have a look over here. And if you see something that's not good, just give them a phone call and follow up. So that will give you a nice option to provide great after-sales support. And then once you've searched it, the name will appear over here, which is clickable. You click on that and it will take you through to the device overview tab. So for more detail on how this looks like, you guys can just have a look at our seminar that's been posted on our YouTube page. So this information will pop over here. Also general stuff, you can see the normal data over here. But what you will most likely be using this tab for is in a parallel setup. So you guys can see there's a parallel tab located over here. Fortunately, I don't have like a little document showing you the information over here, but I'm sure most of you will know what this looks like. So in your parallel system, you would most likely want to group all the information together. So when you monitor the system, it's the combined information. So yeah, so how you group that is once you've searched a station and you click on the station name, you will see all the serial numbers of that system popping up. So if you have 3 inverters in parallel and you've done the configuration correctly, you will see 3 serial numbers over here with the normal status stating online with basic information over here. There shouldn't be much over here since it will most likely be a new setup. And then there will be an actionable section over here. So you click on the action button, and then after you click on the action button, or I think it's like a parallel button that appears over there, it will then pop up with a little box over here that will display the grouping information. The only thing you need to change, and I am so sorry that I can't display it right now, I don't want to reveal too much information of client systems. You will basically, for the master inverter, you will leave the group as group A for all of them, and you just change the number. So the first one, which would be the master, you program that as number 1, and then for the rest, all the other slaves, it'll be 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., etc., etc. And then when you go back to the monitor count, you should get a grouping. So you will search the station, and then when you click on the drop-down arrow over here, you will see all 3 serial numbers of those inverters, and then you will have another additional option that will say parallel A. So when you click on the parallel A, that will display the grouped information over here. Sometimes that parallel A does not appear, but it's okay. All you have to do is just select the serial number of the master inverter, and then that will display the grouping information. I will later on cover how to identify which one is the master inverter. Okay, going through to the maintenance section, I'm not going to go through the settings just yet. I just want you guys just to see an overview of what it looks like. so this is for, okay, so what you're seeing over here is the settings page for your LXP range, not the SNA. So I do need to change that quickly. If you guys can just hold for me, it won't take long. All right, let's change this now. Okay, just 1 second, guys. Let's see if I can quickly get a SNA inverter. Yeah, there you go. This will do the trick. Okay, so this is that's the wrong inverter. Sorry guys, just bear with me. It's a little bit difficult right now. Oh, wait, let's try this. Let's try my technical center. Oh my goodness. I'm terribly sorry about that, guys. First time this is happening. You know what? I'm sure my buddies at Solar Tech won't mind. I think they have a system. It's offline. That's not good. There you go. All right. Sorry. Okay. So this is what your maintain page looks like for an SNA 5000. Sorry for making you wait. That was a bit challenging. So you've got your just the general information over here, which I'm not going to cover just yet. I will cover that just now. So you've got your common settings, your application settings, advanced settings, charge settings, and your discharge settings over here, and then your basic stuff over here listed at the bottom. What I do want to just cover after let me cover that section just now. On your left-hand side, when you're doing firmware updates, you will most likely click on remote update. You'll then search the inverter serial number, which will appear. So all of your systems that are that you registered will be listed over here, so you guys can have a look at that. Now, there's a new feature that Luxpower has added, which I absolutely love, which is the question mark listed over here. Just see if I can find a nice little system to play with. Need a BA, there you go. There you go. Okay. This is just an old unit. Oh, this is the difference here. Okay. Doesn't matter. Anyway. So what will happen is, let's say you want to update your inverter, or you think it needs an update. What you can do is you can go into this tab over here. You will then just click on the question mark. And after clicking on the question mark, it will present you with suggestions. So when you get a suggestion, so in this case over here, you can see there's 3 different firmware codes. So this inverter needs a full update, a proper update with 3 files over here. Now on the SNA 5000, there are 3 firmwares usually. So the process would be there's a firmware for the control board, the main board, and the MPPT board. MPPT board is the last one that you guys will do. And when you guys do the firmware update on your systems, what you need to do is you need to just make sure that a few things are done. Number one, the client's load household appliances have been switched back over to ESCOM directly, and also making sure that the client's router has internet connection permanently. The other thing is make sure that your EPS switch is on, and then you guys can proceed with the firmware, which is a standard update. Now, this is another feature that I like, is the check more tab. So if you click on the check more tab over here, just give it a second, this information will pop up. Now, this is super cool, guys. I've been waiting for something like this for a very long time. So what this does is with each new firmware code or firmware update that is created, not only does it give you like the basic coding of it, but it also explains what they've changed, which is really nice. So like with this tab over here, you guys can basically see that they've added the remote control logic for the Hina battery. So basically the firmware updates on that, which is super, super, super cool. All right. So that's that area over there. So let's just make our way back. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So once you are ready to do the firmware update, all you're going to do is you're going to click on standard update, and then that'll take you through and do the firmware update for you guys automatically. It will also preload the firmware code, so you don't have to manually select them like we previously used to do. So once you click on standard update, the information will appear over here. And then based on the network speed that you guys are using, it could take between 15 to 20 minutes or even less than 15 minutes if you guys are running a really good fiber line. What you guys can also do is if you, under the update record tab, you can see if the firmware updates were successful and if they failed. So based on the suggested tab, it'll tell you the firmware code that they suggest you update. So if that code appears over here and it says success, that means it went through. If it failed, just double check that you made sure your EPS switch is on, everything is changed over, and there's AC power supply going through the inverter. Because your MPPT board, it does need to be switched on from the AC side so that firmware code can go through. All right. There was a section I wanted to cover. Yes, the remote set. Okay, so going to the server management, so referencing what I previously stated on the server management area. Okay, so when you register the client, as I mentioned before, please pre-select the cluster. But if you do forget to do that, you can change it on your monitor account. So you can see on my tab over here, I'm currently on the Asia cluster. So if you click on the drop-down arrow, you've got 4 options over here. So we use Asia and Africa only. All right. So what you guys can do is the process of changing it is, let's say you want to change from Asia to Africa. On the server IP and port, you will leave that blank. Just click on read, wait a few seconds, and you will see the current cluster that you guys are on. So it will most likely pop up in Asia because you want to change from Asia to Africa. So once that reads, you will just select the drop-down arrow, click on Africa, and then just click on set. Oopsie, what's going on now? Click on set. And once that goes through and it's successful, you will see a set successfully notification appear on the top section over here. Okay. All right, guys, so that's just a brief introduction to the SNA 5000 monitor account. I'll go through the settings shortly, but let's make our way back to the training documentation. So I believe what we're going to be covering next is the basic installation requirements, the minimum requirements, and things to take note. I think I may have made 1 or 2 errors over here, but the values are correct, so that's good. So basic installation requirements from your AC side, we recommend a 25 amp input breaker, 20 to 25 amp output breaker, earth leakage, the SPD, and then lights to grid inverter. So basically just a light device displaying if the grid is switched on and going through the inverter, and then a changeover switch. Those are just basic things. From the DC battery side, you need a battery disconnect box ranging or minimum requirement of 125 amp fuses and then 35 millimeter cables. from your DC side of the PV, both your positive and negative strings must have fuses, 100 volts to 385 volts and 13 amps per MPPT. I think that was the area that I made. That was just giving you a little bit of facts, so you guys can ignore that part over there. But you can take note of the 13 amp. So per MPPT, it's 13 amps. So just make sure you don't exceed that limit. I had a situation, I believe it was a few days ago, where a client was using I think it was the 550 watt panels, which is rated at about 13.7 amps. So it's a 0.7 amp over the limitation. So what I recommended to them is you basically bridge both connections from the Luxpower side. So you bridge the PV1 and PV2 ports together. So your positive and negative ports together. And then on your setting side, which I'll show you guys later, when you change the PV setting, it will then combine the two. So they won't be too independent. They will be working together as a combined 26 amp limitation. So that's for your bigger panels, which is quite nice. SPD, we recommend a minimum of 500 volts and then an isolation switch. So it's just general things that we do recommend from your installation requirements. And then jumping over to the battery side, setting up your battery. I have the battery compatibility list on here. So this is the latest one that we have. So I'm going to zoom in a bit so you guys can just read through it. So what you can do is you can take note of the brand on the left, the can selection over here. So this is basically, if we can call it this, the protocol numbers name that we've allocated to it, but that's not really necessary. So focus on the brand name on the left of here, and then the battery code, which is very important. And then on the right-hand side, you guys can have a look and see if that battery is compatible with the Eco Hybrid Inverter model. So most of the time it is. So you guys can just browse through that a bit, and then going down over here, these are the rest of the compatible batteries. You will probably notice, if you've been using the Luxpower units for quite some time, you will notice that on this compatibility list, the Revolve batteries are not listed on here anymore. Reason being is that we have been struggling to get reliable support from the battery manufacturers. We're not too sure what's going on over there, so I'm not bad-mouthing them. The battery is great. I absolutely love it, especially the technical data of it. It is really great. It's just we have down to a lot of situations where the BMS is just refusing to communicate with the inverter. That might be possible because we have made so many changes on our Luxpower unit to keep up with the market needs and basic requirements, etc. Yeah, so usually in most cases where if your Revolve is not communicating with your Luxpower, it's probably because you just need to update the Revolve's battery management system. So you have to go through their technical support and get that sorted out. So yeah, so we have removed that off our list because we don't recommend it anymore. Maybe sometime in the near future we can bring it back on here. All right, so going down a bit, just onto the tips and tricks. So for your lithium ion side, these are your battery dip switches that are most likely located on your batteries. So I just want to note in here that please do confirm on the manual or with your supplier how to program these dip switches. Because if you program your dip switches incorrectly, even though your settings on the inverter are 100%, it will not communicate with the inverter. So the dip switches usually, for one or more batteries, you would have to program this. I know for some batteries like your Dynas, if it's one battery, you do still have to program it. Another note is that I think I've listed this over here. Yes, so program your dip switches before turning on the battery. And remember, every time you change dip switches, you need to restart the battery in order for it to take effect. Communication cables for your new inverters. So like I mentioned, our new inverters have the blue dip switches on them. So your new inverters will most likely use a straight RJ485 communication cable that connects to the CAN ports located on the inverter and battery. And then just another tip is to basically switch on the battery first before you switch on the inverter to avoid any damages. Now, to emphasize on this, what I mean is that sometimes in some situations, and this is very possible, that you may have perhaps purchased a battery that has a faulty BMS, and because of this faulty BMS, it could cause a short circuit on our inverter and damage the MOSFETs on the DC-DC side, which is very, very nasty. And it is also a little bit tricky to get around that, especially for the warranties and stuff, as it is, yeah, it's just like a back and forth on getting that situation sorted out. So please make sure you switch on the battery first and then the inverter. Okay. Then going down to programming the battery on the inverter. I believe in the video that I'm going to show you, my colleague David, he does explain how to program the battery, but I'm just going to go through this as well. So there are a few steps. Number one would be hold the enter button for 3 to 4 seconds until the beeping speed increases. That is very noticeable. As soon as you hear the beeping increasing very quickly, you're going to release the enter button, and then you're going to use the up button to cycle through to setting number 3. Then you're going to press enter to access setting 3. Once you access setting 3, you're going to have 3 options over there that you can see when you press up to cycle through it. It'll be lithium ion, lead acid, and then no battery. So what you're going to do is you're going to program it as a lithium battery in most cases. So you'll select lithium, press enter. After you press enter, you're going to then select the battery protocol number. So I've just listed over here for those of you that are interested in going with a higher battery. It is protocol number 1. So after you select the protocol number, the inverter is going to restart. And after restarting, just wait for a few seconds and you'll see the normal light appear. Okay. Now we're going to go through programming the inverter. But before you program the inverter, you're going to have to get your dongle set up. So there's basically 2 processes that you have to do. Number 1, the dongle needs to be added to the station, which depending on the method that you use, whether you register the client on the app or through your monitor account, that process will be completed over there. So the next step will be the configuration, getting the dongle set up to the client's internet. So there's a lovely video that everyone is most likely see, or let's say most people have seen, that I'm just going to quickly play. Where is it? Just give me 1 second, guys. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen quickly. Just 1 second, guys. I'm just going to open up the video for you guys, and then you can just watch that. So I will include this video as well when you guys send me an email. Where's my Zoom? Okay. All right. Let me share video. Okay, guys. So this is the process that we recommend when you set up the dongle. So just please pay attention to this video. All right, guys. So that's pretty much the process of setting up the dongle. I'll just skip through over there just to save a little bit of time. So just wait a few seconds, all three lights will appear, and then that means the configuration of the dongle was done successfully. So just let me just jump back into. Okay, so that's now finished. Okay, so once that is done, we can start going into the programming of the inverter. I'm going to skip the parallel section for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you, before I go back onto the monitor account, we have dealt with hundreds of situations, a lot of case studies, and these are the three most common working modes that clients try to program, right? You will see in the older Luxpower seminar training videos, these are listed over there, but nothing has changed as of yet. So I'm going to just take you through these processes quickly. So if you want to program the inverter to use solar plus battery, then utility slash grid, what you're going to do is you're going to follow this exact sequence. So you're going to program setting 14, then 15, then 12, then 11. So for 12 and 11, it's important to do this order over here because 11 is limited to the value of 12, okay? So you will just program these over here. So for setting 14, AC charge must be disabled. Setting 15, your AC first tab, all the values must be programmed as default, which is 0, 0, 0, 0, for all three time intervals. And then for setting 12, your on-grid EOD, which is your on-grid end of discharge, you're going to set that to a desired level point at which the grid or utility will take over from the battery. And then for setting 11, just program your cutoff voltage or SOC. So the on-grid EOD, I'm going to explain a little bit more detail when we go onto the monitor account. Then another working mode that we get asked quite often is how to program solar to supply the load during the daytime, and then the battery for backup use only. So what you're going to do in this case is for setting 14, you'll disable AC charge. For setting 15, the same as above, you're going to turn off all the values or program it as default. And then setting 12, you're going to program that to your desired level point. And then your cutoff, you're going to your battery cutoff, you're going to program that accordingly. So that will basically get that working mode going. And then another one is just a purely backup system. So you just have the inverter with no panels and AC power supply. So what you can do is setting 14, you're going to, for your AC charge, you're going to enable that. Then you're going to set it according to time. So you can either set it like this. So basically for your time period 1 or P1 as it's worded, you're going to program it like this. So your start will be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and your end will be 2359. You can also just leave end as default, 0, 0, 0, 0. And then for start, you will just change this to 0, 0, 0, 1, has the exact same effect. And then for AC, for setting 15 AC first, you're going to set that to the interval time P1. So you can use the exact same programming that you used in setting 14. And then for setting 12, your on-grid EOD, not really necessary to program this because of what we've done over here, but just for safekeeping, you can leave it on default at about 90%. And then setting 11, your cutoff voltage, you can set that accordingly. So that's for the backup system. Now, I believe the video that I'm going to show you, David shows you how to do this on the inverter, the backup system, and he also just goes through how to program the battery. So let me quickly pull that up for you guys so you guys can have a quick browse of that. Okay. What I'm going to do is, guys, I'm going to play the first few seconds, then I'm going to pause. If you guys can just let me know in the chat with a thumbs up if you can hear the audio, because previously that was the biggest fault, is that you guys couldn't hear the audio clearly. So I'm going to play it for the first 5 seconds. Just let me know with a thumbs up or thumbs down if you can or can't hear the audio. All right. Just want to see. Can't hear the audio. Oh my goodness. All right. Could you guys hear the audio when I played the video guide for the dongle? That is very, very weird. Okay, guys, I'm terribly sorry about that. I do not know how to fix it. So I think what we're going to do is, while I'm playing the video, I'll just do the narrative of this. Let me just turn the volume down. So basically, what you're going to do is, yes for the dongle, no for this one. That is very weird. Very, very, very weird. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so basically, this is your Luxpower unit of year. Okay, so for the battery setting, what you guys are going to do is how to program the battery. As you can see, you hold the enter button for a couple of seconds, and then once it starts beeping quickly, you will release it. As you release it, you will see it takes you into the setting page. So how you know that you're in the setting page is you will see the 01, which is the default number that pops up first, with a little spanner icon over here. All right. Then what you're going to do is you're going to cycle through by pressing the up button to setting 3. Once you're setting 3, you're gonna access the setting by hitting enter. All right, so when you enter a setting, what will happen is the setting number will begin to flash. That means, or that's an indication that you're in the setting. All right, so just take note of that when you're saving settings, and if you want to know if you're still in it or not, that's how you identify that over there. So when you're in it, you will see you've got your options. You've got lithium ion, you've got lead acid, and then you've got no battery. So in this case, we're going to program it as a lithium battery. So David's going to go back down to lithium shortly. You'll see him do that now. Lithium, and then he's going to press, and then you'll press enter, and then you'll select your battery protocol brand over here. So a lot of people know number 2 to be Pylon-Tech. So once that's selected, then what will happen is the inverter will restart. So since this is already programmed on a battery, we're not going to hit enter. So we'll just return. Okay. So another thing is, please make sure you save the setting for the other ones. For the battery, it's quite obvious. Once you activate what you programmed, it will restart the inverter, and then just wait for a few seconds for the normal light to come on. So now what David is going to do is he's going to go through the backup system, how to program a backup system. So I believe that that's with no panels, just the battery, the inverter, and then your power from the grid. So I can see he's David's going with a different method right now. So David's going through to setting 11 over here. He's going to jump into that shortly. So what you're going to do is, just to summarize it, so you cycle to setting 12 first, then you hit enter, and then this icon over here will be displayed in percentages because you programmed the system with a lithium battery, so it's reading the SOC. So you will then change the SOC accordingly. If you're using a lead acid battery, you'll just do the voltage over here, but just make sure that's done correctly, please. So once you've set that, you'll press enter. Just let David just go through that quickly. You can see it's showing the SOC. Just let him go through that quickly. Just 1 second. Must have been explaining quite a bit. Okay. Okay, so then the next one would be to go to setting 12, which he's going to explain now, but obviously do setting 12 first and then setting 11. So this is basically the end of discharge, that you're going to program over here. So I'm going to fast forward this a bit because David's just showing you, or just like explaining that section. The next part will be to go to setting 14, which is your AC charge. So David now is going to program your AC charge. So as you can see, he's it's displaying the setting over here. So now he's in setting 14 by pressing enter. You will see your icons over there. So you just hit enter again when you see, 1 second. I just want to show you exactly what displays over there. Yeah, so when you see this display over here and it says enabled, this just basically says AC charge. You will then press enter, and after pressing enter, it'll take you to the time of use slots over here. So referencing back to what I said, you can either program P1 start as 0001, press enter, and then you just keep pressing enter until you cycle through till the end of P3, when you back into the setting page, so that will save it. Otherwise, you can do what David's going to do now, is he's going to program it the other way to 2359. So he just presses enter to go to P1 end. So you can see David has preset this one, so it displays as 2359. So as you enter the setting, when this area is flashing like it is now, as 00, just press down, it'll jump straight to 23. The same for this area over here. When you're done, just keep pressing enter until you cycle through everything else, and then that is sorted. Then I think David may have accidentally, yes, he did. Okay. So then the next setting that you guys are going to do is you will just go to setting 15. Once you're at setting 15, just follow the same process. It will look similar to this with your time of use slots over here, which is pretty easy, pretty nice. So that's basically it, guys. You know, like the only thing I would like to emphasize on is just get a feel of when you're in the setting and you're actually changing things, changing the values, and knowing how and when you've saved the setting. There's a lot of situations where clients are a little bit confused to why it's not working, or why the solar system is not working in the way that it's meant to, based on how they programmed it. And that's most likely because of a lack of understanding or misunderstanding of how and if they actually saved what they programmed. So that's how you do that over there. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go to the monitor account, and I'm going to just summarize a few things for you guys. So just give me a second. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen quickly. Just one moment. Okay. All right, just wait for load. Okay, it's loading. Okay, so going through the settings, if you're programming everything on the inverter, you'll see that on the common settings, you've got your basic stuff like your time and your serial numbers. In most cases, the moment you connect this online and it has internet access, the time will be programmed automatically. So your PV side, now linking back to what I said on, if you're using your bigger panels that are 13.7 or a little bit higher amperage, or the PV current, you're going to have to bridge this port, as I explained previously. And on the setting side, you're going to select 2 MPPT connects to same string. So that's that will then combine the two together, and you now have a 26 amp limitation instead of a 13, which is really nice. Okay. Usually by default, if you're using your smaller panels, whether you're using 1 string or 2 string, you're most likely going to be selecting 2 MPPT connects to different strings. So this would kind of be the default of your PV setting, is that one over there. Yeah, so that under the model section over here, you can, if you want, you can program the battery remotely on the app over here. Or if, let's say, maybe your client is complaining about the battery not behaving properly or this and that, and you do suspect that perhaps the BMS is faulty or it's damaged, you can then quickly guide the client to change over to ESCOM, where the appliances are now safe or safer. Then you can then just click on the battery type, select lead acid, and then once you select lead acid, on your right hand side of here, you're going to select the battery capacity. After selecting the battery capacity, you're just going to what is this? After selecting that, you're just going to click on set model. So that is the same effect as doing it on the Luxpower, where you go to setting 3, and then you select the battery type. The only difference is that if you select lead acid on the inverter, it will then ask you to pick the battery capacity. So after that, set model, restart, etc., etc. Then your green function mode and your battery eco mode, I'm just going to explain what it reads over here. So the green function, when enabled, if the EPS load reading is lower than 60 watts for more than 10 minutes, the EPS output will cut off. So that's if let's say your unit is on standby, the system is going to go into green function mode, just so you guys understand that. And then for battery eco mode, When enabled, when battery reaching an on-grid EOD value or AC charge disabled, the inverter will switch to bypass mode until battery is being charged again. And then number 2, it's basically the switch time will go up to 15 milliseconds. All right. So when this is on, when there are some situations where the changeover time is a little bit slow, or slower than usual, it's most likely because that is switched on. So in most cases, we don't actually use that because the batteries are already equipped with a highly intelligent battery management system that manages a lot of these functions. So you can actually just keep that disabled. That's cool. Your buzzer, that's just general stuff if you want to hear the buttons on the Luxpower when you're programming certain things over there. Your normal and standby, in most cases, it'll be on normal. Just a bit of a heads up, I have dealt with the situation with the unit on standby. If left on standby for too long, you're going to get a overheating warning or a temperature, I can't remember the exact wording, but it's temperature something. That will appear on the Luxpower because on standby the fans are not going to be spinning, but the components inside are still heating up. Now what will happen is, I can't remember the exact minutes, but every let's say every 10 to 15 minutes, the inverter will automatically troubleshoot itself to see if that fault or warning is still present. If not, it'll just remove that fault code, and that applies to all of the other faults and warnings as well. Okay, you've got your restart inverter button over here, and then going down to your application settings. Get a lot of questions on this. How do we know which AC input range to use? So I'll get to that now. EPS voltage set, this will most likely be set to 220 to 230 volts over here. Just general South African standard, especially with the frequency of the year. Now hopping on to AC input range, which one to pick. So if you guys can look at the description over there, APL, which is basically the utility range from 90 to 280 volts with a changeover time of 20 milliseconds. And then you've got your UPS, which is the utility voltage range of 170 to 280, which is 10 milliseconds changeover time. In South Africa, we only used the UPS one, as this is within our voltage range in South Africa. So please do not use the APL settings, because if you have it programmed on this, there's a very high possibility that the system is going to switch off, because remember, the inverter needs a certain voltage number. I believe it's a minimum of like 120 volts in order for the inverter to work. So if this dips below that, the inverter is going to switch off, you know. So it will seem like the system is tripping. You know, your lights are tripping, your appliances are tripping, and you don't want to damage those. Okay, your PV grid off, in most cases we don't use it, but just to read the description, it basically allows access to off-grid mode when solar input is available without battery storage. So that's pretty much that part over there. So that's self-explanatory too. Your AC first section, I just want to explain this for those of you that have quite a bit of experience with our hybrid range, RXP series. You will notice that the settings are quite I don't know the right word. Basically, what's stated is exactly what you're going to change. Let me try and explain it by explaining the AC first and the SNA 5000. When you set the AC first, or if you don't set it, you are going to be programming the working mode on the inverter, the logic of how the system is going to work, and this has a huge effect. So if you don't set it, so it's on default, what will happen is, if you have panels as well, your power generated from the panels is being harvested over there, right? That will prioritize providing power to your load, to your clients' appliances, right? If you and then if there's excess power to go towards charging the battery. If you program your AC first, then what will happen is your power that's being harvested from your panels are going to go towards, or it will prioritize charge over load. So to charge your batteries first, and if there's excess power, it will then go towards providing power to your client's appliances, and then that will obviously reduce your import consumption from utility. So just please take note of that, because on the LXP series range, what I mentioned now can be split into two settings, which is applied on that side over there. Okay, going to your hybrid settings over here, if you want to use this in a hybrid state, then what you will do is you will then switch on your PV and AC take load jointly. So you switch that on. Just a note of this is that because the unit does not include, well, yet, I do believe Luxpower is going to be improving the model for the South African market, where they will include an external CT. In the meantime, it does not have that. It only has internal offset CT. So when you turn this on, there will always be a slight backfeed, which you cannot control. So if you use this function and your client has a prepaid meter and it's sensitive to rolling back, then the moment it starts rolling back, it's going to trip the whole time. So in cases like that, you either need to, well, I believe there is only one way to get around, or two ways. You need to change the prepaid meter to one that is acceptable to rolling back, or you can try contact the prepaid meter company to see if they can maybe give you an access code that will give you access to rolling back to a certain percentage. Okay, so there are ways of getting around that over there. We do not, as previously stated, we do not recommend that you use the export to grid. So we recommend that you keep it disabled. However, I will just based on experience, we have had a lot of clients that have tested this in safe environments, and it does work beautifully. So they have basically noticed that when they have to use power from Eskom, the buying back rate is a lot cheaper. Okay, then for your parallel settings, I'm just gonna let's jump into the parallel settings quickly. So before we go into this, I'm going to jump back to the document. Where's the parallel? Should be over here. Okay. Which is part 5, which is the connection on the inverter, the parallel side. Okay, so when you're doing the communication side for the parallel setup, this is what it will look like. So this is a diagram of 4 units in parallel. You will notice that on the bottom ports of here, these are your parallel ports where the comms cables will connect. So these are just straight RJ485 cables. They get plugged in here. So these are 4 inverters. So what will happen is on the master inverter, the bottom left one, and then the last slave inverter, the bottom right one, these two connect together. And then the ports in between connect together, as you can see up here. I believe the term is they just daisy chain over one by one, okay? Then your master inverter, or let's say the first inverter and the very last inverter, those dips must be switched on, and all inverters in the middle must be switched off. So if you have 2 inverters in parallel, then what will happen is both inverters dips must be switched on. Okay, so I think that explains that section over there. But let me just see if I left anything out over here. Okay, yeah, in a parallel setup, we do recommend, if you have more than one battery, parallel the batteries together. On the master battery, then you will take the positive and negative, well, depending on the battery type that you're using, but basically you would then take from the appropriate terminal point the positive and negative, feed that through a bus bar, and then you have that split into all inverters. And then on the setting side, you will then program the setting as battery shared. This is what we recommend. If one inverter goes down, don't worry, it's still connected to the other inverters. Okay, jumping back to the monitor account for the parallel, let's say it's a single phase system. You will then click over here, select single phase, or 3-phase, you will select 3-phase. In a 3-phase setup, you will just have to select your phases over here. So there are situations where sometimes clients experience a fault regarding the phase. All you need to do is 9 times out of 10, log on to the monitor account, switch to phase, see if that corrects it. 9 times out of 10, it does. For the battery shared, this is where you guys are going to program it over here. So you just click on enable, and then boom, that's set. Guys don't have to worry about that anymore. The advanced settings for battery voltage correction, we can ignore that for now. I haven't used that quite often, so I'm not comfortable explaining that yet. Jumping down to the charge settings, So what you got over here is you can see your basic battery information over here. So you got your charge current limit. So the discharge current limit is on the discharge setting at the bottom. And underneath that, you've got your lead acid settings over here. So just a note, obviously, if you're using a lead acid battery, you're going to set it over here. But if you have a lithium battery and the BMS is not too reliable at the moment, and you're experiencing a lot of battery voltage high warnings, I think is it battery voltage high? Yes, yeah, battery voltage high warnings. What you can do is with our new firmware update, I think it was a couple of months ago, Luxpower released a new firmware update where after you update that unit, you can then bypass the lead acid settings. What I mean is on the old firmware, when you program this for lithium battery, it'll give you a notification set successfully, right? When you click on set, but it doesn't actually take effect. Now with the new firmware updates, this has now changed. So on lithium batteries, you cannot change this and you can play around with it to get it sorted out. So if you have a battery voltage high warning popping up on your Luxpower the whole time, what you can do is in most cases, you just program this to about 55.5, click set, good to go in most cases. If you are still experiencing a lot of problems, then my recommendation would be to please try and get that firmware update on the battery checked out and get the BMS checked out too. Okay, so on your lead acid settings, you've got your charge voltage, float voltage, your equalization area over here. We can leave that out. You won't, well, in most cases, you're not really going to be using that. Your AC charge, just set that accordingly based on the battery parameters. So AC charge, your charge current, sorry. And then your AC charge settings over here. So there are a few options to select from. So you have your AC charge according to time, according to battery voltage, according to battery SOC, according to battery voltage and time, and then according to battery SOC and time, which is what I like to use quite often in case the BMS fails on the battery, obviously. So let's say for the sake of seminar, let's do time first. You will select time. After selecting time, click on set, wait for your notification message popping up here saying that everything is good. And then what will happen is you will set your AC charge settings over here. And just please, as a reminder, don't forget to click on set. That's very important. Your AC charge battery current, you will set that accordingly. And then for your, if let's say using a lead acid battery, you're either going to select according to battery voltage or according to battery voltage at time. Then you will see you now have access to this tab over here. And then if you switch over to SOC or SOC according to SOC and time, you will then have access to this over here. So I will be using this when I explain another setting mode shortly. Your generator tab over here, you've got your basic generator information over here. So you're going to have to select over here based on voltage or SOC. And then you can just set either by voltage or SOC. Now, we do recommend, due to some generators not being reliable, the power sources are not very stable, especially from the current. We recommend if you have a larger generator, just please use half of its capacity. Also keeping in mind the limitation of the Luxpower unit. You know, the bigger the Luxpower system, the more power you can use. But yeah, so just have a look and see if that is if the generator is reliable to use full capacity of it. Generator charge battery current, set that accordingly, usually the same as your AC charge over there. Then that's set. Under your discharge settings over here, you've got your discharge current limit, your battery warning SOC, your discharge cutoff SOC, and then your on-grid EOD. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to explain the on-grid EOD, exactly how that works. Is that, let me see if this will just give you the, yeah, so basically what happens is, let's say you are using the battery is currently discharging, but the inverter is detecting AC power, and it's, let's say the AC power is on standby, and you have your on-grid EOD, end of discharge, set at, let's use a number of 50%. Then what will happen is the moment your battery reaches an SOC of 50%, it's going to cut off, and then your then Eskom is going to start charging your battery, and then once your battery reaches 100%, And what will happen is it will then, once your battery reaches 90% to 100%, then your battery will then kick in and start discharging again, and then it'll basically repeat that cycle. So it's a very nice way, a very nice working, or a very nice setting to use. It's actually one of my favorite ones to use, based on a very popular working mode where the client wants to use the system more than off-grid and only use AC power supply when necessary to basically reduce the utility bill. So what we basically do is we basically program the system to use battery and PV most of the time. So during the night time, depending on the battery, we make sure that there is enough power supply, or enough power capacity from the battery to last during the evening. And then if necessary, if let's say you're having a day where the sun, it's a very cloudy day, you're not getting a lot of power from the PV, ESCOM will be available to kick in to charge the batteries up until PV power is available to take that responsibility. And then during the day, you're most likely going to be using your panels to provide power to your household. And if your consumption exceeds the maximum harvest power amount from PV, then the battery will kick in and provide power over there. So that's how that will work. And then just a reminder, AC will kick in when necessary. Your other settings, we do sometimes, very, very rarely. I know my buddy Jean from Sharp Solar Experiences has come across this a few times, where there's a fault on the CT offset. What we just like to do is, there's no correct way to actually fix this. So it's literally a trial and error. So what we do is we will usually set this to maybe like -20, and then we work our way up until that fault just disappears. That's how we do it for that over there. The fan speeds usually set to 70% default. You guys are, well, there's no reason to actually change that. You can leave that over there. You reset, okay, this is a new function that Luxpower added over here, which is cool. And then you've got your general information at the bottom there, like your IP stuff that we previously discussed. All right, let's just go through the tab over here. I just want to see if I've covered everything. Yeah, all right, guys. So that's pretty much it. A very brief summary of the previous seminar that we hosted, with extra stuff that I've added, the technical stuff over here. So if you guys are interested, you can just send me an email, and then I'll send you the documentations, and then we can get you sorted out over there, get you on the groups, no problem at all. And then we have about 15 minutes left, 10, 15 minutes before load shedding happens for some people. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the chat to do a bit of Q&A to see if I can try and answer as many questions as possible. So I'll start at the bottom, make my way up. Since PV panels only supply on demand, why would MPPT allow to import more than 13 amp rating? Good question. I can't visualize a situation where I've dealt with something like that, Ian. I'm sure I can answer it, but I'm going to need a little bit more information. I think of maybe if you can try and rephrase that a bit for me, because I'm struggling to understand it to give you an accurate answer. Otherwise, just pop me an email on that on that one. I will then answer it for you. Is the model only serial number of inverter, or just is model only serial number of inverter, or just ignore? I'm not too sure what you mean by that, Lewis. If you can just rephrase that question for me. Will this training video be available later to review? Okay, so we pre-filmed a video actually, I think it's about 3 weeks ago, which is on our YouTube page. I went into a lot of detail on that one, and I took my time, so that is available for you guys to watch. The only difference is literally this technical area that I added on here, extra stuff on the Heiner battery, and then this document here, and then basically showing you guys the insides of the Luxpower system. That's literally the only stuff that will not be on that video. So you can just get this document from me. You can send me an email. Let me just actually retype my email in the chat for you guys. Just one moment. Oopsie daisy. Okay, there's my email, guys. You guys can just pop me an email. Let's have a look. Let's see what else is here. When will DC source mode option be used or not used? That's a good question, actually, because I have actually never used that mode, and I don't actually recall a case study where we've ever had to use it. So I'm going to have to follow up with Luxpower on that one, just to get a clear answer on that. Okay, I see some of you guys have been replying to other questions, so we'll just leave that. Yes, Dongle. Quite a couple examples on Facebook. Yeah. Okay. Yes, so Luxpower and Volta, very good combination actually. Quite nice to program. There are a lot of examples on Facebook, but basically straight RJ485 cable, protocol number 2, you're good to go. That's literally it. Just obviously confirm on the manual what the dips are. That can help you guys out. Okay, I see Meow Meow answered some. Thank you for that. Let's have a look. Yes, so Heiner is now type 1. Yep, that is correct. Protocol number 1 on the configuration, sorry, on the battery compatibility list. I think it's on 6, but that was the old one, so you guys can use number 1. Okay, that is a very valuable point. If that's the case, then you can leave it as is, hey? Obviously, I haven't really been out there to test this data, so I'm relying on my sources with regards to data. But if this is the case, then you're all good, man. You're perfectly good at that. Can you also use recording documents? Okay, okay, guys. All of you that need this information, just send me an email, please. It'll be a lot easier, as I can just CC all of you guys. Okay, recording is in place. Please go through dongle firmware update, please. All right. If you are still in the group and you just need a refresh of how to do that, for firmware updates on dongles, what you can do is log into your maintain account. Log into your monitor account, go to maintenance, click on remote update. Then you're going to search the inverter, either filter by a station or inverter serial number. And then once that appears, oh, no wonder, click on the wrong one. Once it appears over here, just click on the question mark over here to confirm if there are any suggested firmware updates available. And then you can just, if they are, you can just click on standard update and then that'll go through. So, but just make sure you follow the necessary steps to ensure that you are ready to do a firmware update. All right. Can the Asia station be moved to Africa? Yes, it can. I don't have an image or sound, though. We're still waiting for some guys to join. I'm terribly sorry about that. I hope you guys joined in time. I want one of those. Please send me your email address. Okay. Sure. Guys, please just pop me an email. I did send my email address down below. I'll have a look at those shortly. Yes, so as mentioned in the seminar, there is actually talk about an external CT that's going to be added to the SNA 5000. It was actually meant to be done from my from the information that I received from Luxpower. It is meant to be already well, the new model for this should have been released, but I will follow up with Luxpower. I haven't spoken to them regarding this in a while. Okay, let's have a look at some more. Correct, but the risk of I see there's a, is this a conversation going on here, or Lewis commenting on my stuff? The risk of losing neutral on three-phase system by changeover can be catastrophic on the three-phase side. All right, Lewis, I'm going to need more information on that, please. Shouldn't do common neutral. I see. Okay. So it's just a conversation you guys are doing. Okay, so you can ignore me. All right, let's have a look at the bottom now. New messages. Great. Okay, let's have a look. All right, so the limitation from my understanding is 13 amps, and I get where you're coming from, but if there's any situations, whether it's like surges or maybe like a damaged panel or something, like the current from the PV side cannot be controlled when the voltage drops. As the voltage drops, the current shoots up. But that's a good question. I would like to find out how I can answer that in a better way. So Ian, I would actually like you to email me, please, regarding that question, because that'll be very nice to learn how to answer that properly. Okay, I see all of you guys are asking me to email you guys. It's not going to be possible for me to email you because there are so many different email accounts of here. So if you can just send me an email with regards to this seminar, I can send you all of that data. Okay, I can see you guys are all wanting. Okay, guys, that's pretty much it. Seems like you guys just want that information. Let me just answer. I had a problem on Friday with the SoC setting where the battery only charged up to 65% and then had to switch over to according to time, and then the battery fully charged. What is your email? Sorry, I didn't get it. Okay, sure. I'll just resend my email again, guys, and then I'll answer your question. Right, it's jonathan@det.co.za. So you guys can just pop me a message over there. I'm one of the directors. Okay, so regarding your question, Dion, that's a very good question. There's multiple factors actually that can be causing that. It could be maybe your communication cable from battery can to inverter can is faulty. It could be the battery management system is a little bit faulty, so you're switching over to time, so you're bypassing that automated system from the battery management system. There's multiple things over there. Just have a look at the type of battery that you have. Maybe contact the battery manufacturer, see if there's a firmware update that has to go through. So just try and diagnose the battery a little bit more. You can also try and update the Luxpower inverter. That can sometimes help too. Okay, available on SA or the single phase 3-phase. Okay, so currently Luxpower only has single phase inverters in South Africa. So there's the Eco Hybrid, which is a off-grid inverter, and then on our hybrid side, we have a 5 kilowatt, a 10 kilowatt, and then a 12 kilowatt. So your 10 and 12 kilowatt are actually very similar to your day inverters. They have the smart load function as well, which is quite nice. It's just sadly those two products are misunderstood on the market. But yeah, so single phase inverters that do support unbalanced loads as well. So if you're interested in something like that, you can also just pop me an email and then we can sort you out regarding that. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you very, very much for joining today's seminar. We do really appreciate it. We're going to be hosting about two seminars every month. So every second week we will host one, and we will try and do more seminars for weekends, as I do believe some of you are not available during the week. But those of you that do come during the week, thank you very much. We do appreciate the love and support that we get from you guys. And if you do have any queries, my email has been sent on the group many, many times. Ian, I'll pop you an email now. A message. There you go, email sent. Yeah, so you can just let me know if you got that. That'll be good. It is a Dynas. I did run the update and I have not switched over back to SC. Okay, Dion, pop me an email with that information of that unit. Let me take a look at it remotely. If the system is okay for now, then I'll look at it on Monday if you don't mind. But yeah, I'll get that system sorted out for you. quickly. I have a lot of experience with a lot of batteries, especially Dynas, because I did represent a company that imports the brand. Okay, cool. Thanks again, guys. Have a lovely weekend, and we will see you hopefully in the next week or two with another seminar. All right, keep well, guys.